Is the most important thing happening in the world, and it's the most important thing, the most important conflict in the last 50 years. What happens here decides what will happen to democracy all around the world.
The Russians won't stop with Ukraine if they gain victory here. They will continue with other European countries threatening them, maybe attacking them. So that's why I'm here.
This is black and white, right versus wrong. The Ukrainian military has performed amazing. Actually, the Ukrainian military's victories against Russia will be written about in history and studied by other nations to try to find out how you have been so successful.
Сильно близко не подходите. Вот он полыхает.
Русня горить.
Вон парни молодцы с Матадора. Вон Рэмбо, красавчик. Рэмбо, ты ебанул. Вот, хорошо. ТМ-ку наехал. Все, хлопцы. Так.
Alright. G'day guys, how are you going? I just thought I'd do something a little bit different today and put out probably a half an hour video just on tools that you can use to track what's going on in Ukraine at the moment, the war in Ukraine with Russia. If you're interested in that kind of thing, I am, not only being ex-military, I enjoy my military history and tactics and everything like that, but being ex-military and also a fair bit to do with what I do currently in my line of work. So I like to keep across these things and what's going on. So there's a range of what we call open source tools out there, or OS tools that you can use. Some are really good. I've made it widescreen so you can see all the tabs up the top here, and they're they're a couple of the main ones that you can use in combination with each other just to get a quick snapshot of where everything's up to every morning. So yeah, excuse all my other little daily bookmarks up here, bits and pieces, but alright, so I just wanted to do this for people that might have an interest like myself, like I said, in knowing what's going on, what's up. And also I try to use a mix of stuff that's out there, but predominantly I do use data that's coming out of Ukraine, because I find that the data out of Ukraine, it's far more accurate, because they need to portray the picture. They don't need to lie about what's going on there. The successes and what's happening are validated by the photos and the images and everything that they take, that they put out on these sites every day. These are the images and photos that Russia denies on their own sites. So they block a lot of the Ukrainian sites in Russia because they simply don't want people to see the images of the captured documents, the captured soldier interviews, the destroyed serial numbers of the tanks and weaponry, etc., which the Ukrainians all put out there. I mean, they're fighting smart, and every little thing that they put out there helps them with their cause. It keeps morale up, not only of the country but the troops, because they can see that collectively they're having an impact around the place, and it just gets the truth out there. So I like to focus more on the Ukrainian data that's coming out, and a lot of that data that the Ukrainian sites put out, I validate with my friends over there in Ukraine anyway, so I know that what's being put out there and what's being said is not garbage. Obviously there's propaganda on both sides, but the Russian propaganda, as we know, is just over the top. It's absolute rubbish, it reminds me of that right back in the Iraq War, the first campaign, when the coalition was, within a stone's throw of the capital, and that spokesman, I forgot his name now, he was a funny character, but he's still standing up and saying, no, everything's all right, we're on the offensive and we're taking it to the enemy, and they're suffering huge losses. And everyone could see on the news that the coalition was about to take the palace that he was speaking from. But so that's a bit like Russian propaganda. It's absolute just bullshit. Alright, so let's go through a couple of sites. So when I get up in the morning, I like to have a quick snapshot of what's been going on overnight. So I might read a couple of news channels, flick through a few other channels, Ukrainian channels. But in terms of getting a visual, these are probably the ones I like the most. So this Ukraine interactive map. This is updated consistently. Like it's every 30 minutes or so there's an update. There are things that you can correlate from source to source. Like for me, although this is very accurate at the moment, it's not entirely accurate, because over here on this side, on the Romanian side, where we have Galați and Ismail and Tulcea and Galați on the Romanian side of the border, just here. Now, I've been to the border area. There's a if I can zoom in closer, I don't know if it'll bring up Isacia. Yeah, there it does, Isacia. So that's one of the border crossings by ferry boat. So this dogleg area in here, this is all Ukraine going around the side of Moldova. There's Odessa. So Odessa's only a couple hundred k's from the border crossing, 150 k's, not far, or just under 200, sorry. And I always said, wouldn't be surprised if soon we look across the river crossing here and see Russian soldiers standing on the other side. I said that a few months ago. And the strange thing, in the last couple of days, it's not reflected on this map. I don't know why, but Russia started really heavily shelling in here, in this dogleg area. And my suspicion is that the Russians know that the equipment that the West is sending into Ukraine can only go in a matter of ways. There's none being flown in at the moment, obviously. Well, there could be some going into the West via aviation, but I don't think so. So most of it's coming across land borders, and there's only a couple of really big land borders where they come in. So there's a place where I was a few weeks back. So I went to that border. I know that's one area. But look, another area that potentially stuff is coming through, and that's why the Russians are shelling it at the moment, is this crossing here from Romania into the southern dogleg area near Odessa, and then up to the west, etc. So I'll show you on another map shortly all the rounds that have been landing here, and they're landing right around all this highway system through here. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually trying to take out the transport corridor through here. And the other thing I noticed is a few weeks back, this was actually closed. This crossing was closed to normal traffic, so refugee traffic. They said that would always happen if the campaign stepped up and became very big, that they would close that crossing potentially and just leave another one open here at Galați. But the other suspicion you could say, I suppose, is that crossing has been closed because they're now using the barges and everything else to shuttle equipment across, but who knows. Alright, so very good map in terms of where the offensive, where the front line is and where the attacks are happening. As you can see, Russia is just shelling all the way around that front at the moment. You can click on each one, it'll give you a descriptor over here. So this was an explosion 11 hours ago in Mykolaiv. This one here we've all heard about on the news. The blue represents the civilians that were killed in the rocket attack, Russian missile attack on Vinnytsia, town that had nothing to do with the wars whatsoever, in the middle of nowhere. Russia's maybe seeing something there on satellite that they think might be something, but it's just in the middle of nowhere. It's not linked to anything, so it doesn't make sense unless there's a rail corridor through there they're trying to target, again, to stop the supply of weapons. Or they'll probably say, yeah, they found a warehouse there on satellite that had weapons in it and mistakenly attacked it. So yeah, 8 killed, 30 wounded there, you can see over here. So, and the thing is, they link everything. The people that are updating this site are doing an excellent job, because everything is linked to sources that are out there on the net, and to reports, to videos, to tweets. So let's have a look at this one. What's this one here? So this was a day ago. Okay, and some of these are even based on what the Russians are saying. So the Russians put out their own reports. These guys have a look and put that data in, if that's the only data to go on. But yeah. So that's one map to have a look at, guys. Like I said, you can zoom in and get you can get a lot more data down at the field level. What's this one here? Donetsk bus station. Okay. Alright, so that's going on all the way up there at the moment. So my suspicion, like I said, is they've had that little bit of a rest. He's trying to get his 80,000 new soldiers together because he's lost about 120,000 now with the 150 he put in, which is just over half of his total active land force. And I don't know if a lot of people understand. You know, people go on about, oh, but Russia's got million man army. Well, they don't really. Every army has a reserve component to it. So Russia has 1 million reserves, and they can count on an army about the size of 800. Sorry, I shouldn't say army. A combined force of 800,000 at any given time. So don't forget that combined force. That's Navy, that's Army, that's Air Force. Yeah. And then within those three forces, you have to look at the actual, what we call the line troops, or the combat troops, or the active troops. Many people list them. So out of that 800,000, he has 280,000 active army, or ground forces as Russia call them. So he has 280,000 active troops that are in the army, or their ground forces. You know, the rest are made up of cooks and cleaners and truck drivers and logistics people and administrators. You know, they're not fighters. So out of that 800,000 we talk about, you know, 50% of that is probably made up of logistics personnel, like in most armies in the world, you know. Same when I was in the forces as well. You know, the smallest component of our armed forces was our actual fighting force. The rest is all logistics and supply and the stuff that keeps the army the fighting forces ticking over. Alright, so back to what I was saying. So he put in 150,000 of that 280,000 active ground forces. He's lost nearly 110. Estimates are about 110 to 120,000, either through being killed outright or injury. And he's lost nearly 10,000 pieces of equipment now. So that's a hell of a blow. And don't forget, he now has to protect mainland Russia, not just from this threat or his perceived threat, but from anywhere else that might want to attack him. So he's left himself severely depleted now. He's not in a good position, and it looks on the map here like, you know, Russia may have achieved a lot, but they haven't really. So this is an army. This is an army that couldn't fight in the west over here. When it came in the west, down through Belarus, through here, came down towards Kiev. It got kicked in the arse. It got kicked running back into its own borders. It repositioned and ran down its own borders. Some stuff moved through the centre to the east. But essentially it repositions itself to the east, where not only could it then say, oh, that was our plan all along, you know, now we're focusing on the Donbass where we really want to be. But, you know, now they're within 150 k's of their own border the whole way. So if you measure this across here, it literally is a measurement about 150 k's. So they can resupply themselves. So when you look at this, in 5 months' time, to have moved 150 kilometres from your own border and not to be able to resupply yourself when you're only 200 kilometres into enemy territory, that's a terrible outcome. And to have lost 110,000 people and all that equipment, he's absolutely been hammered. And a lot of people that are claiming this as a Russian victory, don't forget that a lot of these places, he's just laid bare. So there's total destruction now. There's not worth anything to him. There's no industry there anymore. There's nothing. So all he can do is claim the territory and then say, well, you know, we've grabbed some territory back for Russian people, but here's your city back. Sorry, there's nothing left of it. So he's not saving anybody from anybody. It's absolute garbage. And the other thing is, a lot of the Ukrainians, the last couple of cities, they've actually tactically withdrawn, and people say, oh, that's garbage. You don't do that. Well, you do in the military. They've tactically withdrawn to say there's no use sitting in a bombed out city taking casualties, defending rubble, when we could be withdrawing, 10, 20, 30 k's back repositioning, resupplying, having a rest, resetting our front line, and that's probably what they've been doing. So Russia can bomb away, but it's not really moving forward. It's just bombing. All right, so I don't see that they've done a hell of a lot, and I think Putin's put himself in a real dodgy position now, because what he's trying to do, and I've said this before, so where's Kharkiv? Kharkiv's up here somewhere, okay? So what he's trying to do is get a nice straight line sort of down through here to Mariupol. So that way he has this whole chunk here in the middle, the cauldron, as a lot of people were calling it. So it provides a nice straight line of territory geographically for him. And that way he's got the whole Donbass, and so he's really pushing into this last central area with this new 80,000 troops he's trying to put together. So I don't think he's going to get in there for a start. He's going to get kicked. He's going to lose a lot of those again. So he's got two options now. One is he grabs that last bit of territory and he stops, which I think if he managed to do, he will. And then he says, okay, now you can negotiate with me, Ukraine. I'm setting new borders here. I'm annexing all this territory. Let's talk. I don't think he'll ever withdraw unless the second option occurs, and which is he gets his ass kicked in here, and then he has to withdraw and make it look like a victory to the Russian people by saying, look, we achieved our aims. We secured Donetsk and Luhansk for the Russians there, and he'll obviously negotiate with Ukraine to try and say, we'll go back to February 24 lines of demarcation, but we now want to make sure Donetsk and Luhansk are safe forevermore and are recognised as independent sovereign territory within Ukraine, which was going to happen anyway. But so, and then he can pull back and he can say, look, we denazified everyone, we smashed their military, wiped out their capability, which is garbage, and his PR machine will sell it to the Russian people as a victory, and he pulls back to the lines of this February 24. So there's a couple of options there. Alright, so that's one map, guys. Sorry, I detracted on talking about the tactics a bit as well, rather than just the map. So, like I said, you can click on the different things. It'll give you an update over here on the right, so you can read the details and view the details. Alright, the next one I'll go to, I won't go to that one, I'll go to the deep state map. So again, put out by Ukraine and Ukrainian sources, and man, they do an excellent job again every day, daily. Alright, and this is the one that I use to confirm the bombings in that dogleg area down here, because as you can see, it's not indicated in red because Russia doesn't hold that territory, but they are certainly very interested in it, and they always have been, because one, we know they wanted Odessa to cut Ukraine off from the Black Sea. Hasn't quite happened because Ukraine's been taking out Russian vessels that get too close, because they have the capability with their anti-ship missile systems that are online, and now that they have HIMARS as well, they can reach a little bit further out to sea. But obviously that'd be ideal to cut Odessa off, fill in this dogleg here, take this dogleg, and then guess what? Open slather on Moldova if they want to. This red area here, I don't know how many of you know, but this red area in Moldova is called Transnistria, and it's a breakaway state from Moldova that actually supports Russia. So it's like going back in time there. You still got KGB, you still got streets called Stalin Street and Lenin Street, statues of Lenin around town. So it's a real... But anyway, there's about 2,500, between 1,500, 2,500 troops stationed here all the time. They're there anyway. So he's already got that number of troops in there. So if he could capture this area here, cut off Odessa, Moldova is not part of NATO either. So they're the next obvious target. Because if he can take that, then he controls the access to the Black Sea totally. All right, but what I was interested about is, like I said, you can turn on this little fire sign down here. This is it says fires, but it's actually bombing or attacks. So you can turn that on, and what it does is it shows all the locations where shelling attacks have occurred. And this only started the last couple of days, and it's intensified. So this chart measures here in something that's occurred less than 6 hours. Red is 6 to 12, etc., etc. All right. So for me, this is very interesting because these only started showing up a few days ago. This whole area had been left alone up until now. You know, the most southern bombing or around here. You know, the odd missile into Odessa. I think there's a couple that came down here a month or so ago. But this is in the last few days, so they're heavily dropping a lot of rounds into these areas here. And I'm curious why. And like I said, I think it's to try and take out this transport line from the border crossing here. Give people a bit of a wake-up call saying, look, you know, you're not immune here. We can, you know, we nearly can touch you from here, touch you from anywhere. But I'll tell you what, this bloody stray round here in the last sort of 6 to 12 hours, that's a little bit concerning. That wasn't there yesterday, obviously. And you can measure, so if I measure that from the actual border crossing to where the round landed, that's 12 kilometres, you know, 12.36 kilometres. So that's getting pretty serious, you know. That only has to land another 12 k's this side of the border, and effectively, you know, NATO's almost got an excuse to go to war then. You know, that's in Romanian sovereign territory, and, you know, we are part of NATO. And I say we because most people that know my channel now know that I'm English Australian, but I live in Romania. It's my home. So, you know, what goes on here concerns me a lot. So yeah, that's a very stray round, that one. Very weird, whether it was a miscalculation, whether it was someone just dropping it in there. So from 12k away, if you're in that border area around Reni, Galatz, you're going to hear that round going off depending on how big it is. You know, if it's a 155 round or something, you're definitely going to hear it from that far away. So just a little wake-up call maybe. But these are all deliberate. These are all clustered around here for some reason. So they're not actually seem to be targeting anything there. Like I said, here we go. As we come in, the roads kick in. Okay, yeah. So I think that's exactly what they're trying to do, like I was saying. So they're trying to take out these transport routes here by the look of it, this one and this one. So I think they have their sneaking suspicions that the equipment that was coming in across the border from Tulcha, you can't actually get in that way because you've got to cross the river, but from Izarche was maybe coming over the border here and then being filtered up these roads somehow, you know, keep low key, I don't know. But they look like obvious attempts to take out that sort of inverted V shape, those two roads. Yeah, interesting, guys. And then obviously a lot of targeting. Wow. See, that's right on the border with Transnistria now, their own sort of territory, which is just crazy. No, it's not actually anywhere near Transnistria. That's right on the that's right on the border with, that's on Moldova's border, those explosions. Right on the borderline. And another one. That's getting, yeah. Alright, so, yeah, guys, you can see where the attacks are again, where they put the focus of the attacks in every day. So, again, around this area, like I said, he's trying to close off this area here to here. And fill in this spot here, and then, like I said, he's got a nice line from. He can say to Russian people, look, we've taken all this territory from there down to Mariupol. and he will have filled in this, and then he's got a nice geographic boundary. So he just comes around the corner here, and he's got a nice line geographically that he can annex if he wants to. Alright, this map, you can click on all the little huts, etc. You can see which units are stationed where. So these are the Z forces, so the Russian forces. You can look at their airstrips. You know, this is the thing that really annoys me too, is when these cowards, and I call them cowards because they are cowards, you know, they tried to fight Ukraine one-on-one, face-to-face, and they got their ass kicked. No match for the Ukrainians. After only 8 years, seems like a long time, but in 2014, the Ukrainian army was a conscript army. It was made up of amateurs, non-professionals, mainly with very poor equipment. And in 8 years, under the guidance mainly from the UK, of course America, but mainly from the UK, they were retrained into a really well-structured, disciplined force. And Russia thought they were just going to march in like 2014 and they'd be in Kiev in 3 days. But they ran into a nasty, determined, well-trained and very smartly fighting force. So yeah, these are their dispositions. And what I was saying about being cowardly is all their airfields here. I mean, look at all the airfields they have to choose from to launch their air assaults and launch missiles. And you know, I don't know where Kursk is. Kursk is one of their main. Kursk is one of the main bases they use to actually attack up here at the moment. Where are we? It's Milarovo, Morozovsk. Anyway, it's very, very close to very close. Here we go. Kursk up here. So Kursk, they have a very big detachment of Su-35s and sort of their more modern bombers and attack planes. So you know they're launching a lot of the damage around Kharkiv as being supported by attacks out of this base. So they just fly across the border, bomb, and return. So it doesn't really seem fair, but that's how Russia fights when they start to lose. You know, they've done it since World War II. You know, they just resort to retreating and hiding behind their artillery, and they just smash everything indiscriminately. You know, they have no concern. They just literally get orders to say level the place, and that's what they start to do. Alright, so you got that map to look at. You got this map to reconfirm and things. If you want to, you can turn on the filter over here and turn on the little pigs. So the guys that have put this map together have depicted the Russians as pigs, and I think many of us probably wouldn't disagree with that. So you can actually drill down now, not only into the the parent unit, but you can drill down into their component units as well. So motorised rifle regiment, blah blah blah. Alright, so I'll turn the pigs off. I don't know, because I think it's even a little bit too nice calling them pigs, because I actually like pigs. You know, pigs are pretty friendly animals and keep to themselves and just snort around. So I think these guys are worse than pigs. You know, don't know what else to give them. I think they're just cave people. It's bloody cave dwellers that still walk on all fours on their, or knuckle draggers as we call them. Still drag their knuckles along on the ground as they walk. Alright, let's have another look at something else you can use now. Okay, this is military land. So military land is put together on a daily basis again by people in Ukraine, and they put a summary out every day. The summary, what's today, the 15th? Today's summary hasn't come out yet. I'll just refresh in case it did. No, so 13th is 2 days ago. But very, very good. You know, the maps that they have in here are absolutely outstanding. So what they normally do is they have a day summary, so they'll tell you sort of what's happened for the day, and then they break the maps down into different regions. So you can see this one over here is the Kharkiv region up here, and you can hover over the map, and it just has a zoom tool, or if you don't like that, you can click on the map and bring the map up and look at it this way, but you can't really zoom in. It's the only downside. But it gives you an idea of where the actual forces are located. A lot of the Ukrainian forces, yeah, they are starting to update some of their movements, but they try and keep a lot of them hidden. So a lot of them are like last known positions of where the garrison was, or last known positions maybe a few days prior, rather than in real time, because obviously that wouldn't be good to give away to the Russians. Alright, so that's that area. And then you can go through map to map. You can see this is now moving down the front line. This is where that big battle in the cauldron is going on now, the big push. So you can see the perimeters, the fortifications that Ukraine has got around Slovyansk and Kramatorsk. And there's a couple of reasons that Putin wants that. One, I said he wants to fill in this gap and have a nice geographical line. But also Slovyansk and Kramatorsk are two of the last remaining key areas. There's a lot of industry in there, a lot of metal production, a lot of industry. Somebody mentioned there was gas and oil processing and things. So, yeah, I mean, obviously to capture those, not so much for his benefit, but to deny again a resource to Ukraine, because he's trying to shatter the Ukrainian economy as he goes, is a big thing. So that's that map. That's where you can see the bulk of the fighting is taking place at the moment. A lot of skirmishes, bombing attacks. You can see all the Russian dispositions here, all the fire going in. But yeah, by the same token, yeah, all right. So down around Donetsk, as we know, Donetsk was one of the proclaimed independent states and has always been fighting anyway, so there's no surprise that's in red. Russia's reinforced it a fair bit. They've got quite a lot of units in there. And moving down towards Kherson and Odessa again, see, we don't see anything in here. Again, they haven't taken it, but we don't see any indication of those rounds we saw on the other map. So that's interesting, but look, it's a great site if you want information about losses and things. And like I said, they're not discriminatory. They put Ukrainian losses on there as well. But you know, this is again so the Russians can actually have a look, and you know, they can't deny this stuff is happening. You know, when they say, "Oh no, we've only lost 3,000 troops," when they've lost nearly 40,000 troops. Well, I think their last estimate was 10. Official figure was 10 that they came out with, but you know, they've lost nearly 10,000 pieces of equipment now. And as you can see, they catalogue everything here. So artillery, Russian Ka-52 helicopter, Russian T-62 tank. They got all the details, you know, serial numbers, etc., etc. Where it was done, what had happened, vehicle number. So very, very comprehensive site. Like I said, I mainly use it for the maps, again, to just duck in and have a look at the maps. There's a full map, deployment map here as well. So, for those of you that are into maybe current military, ex-military like myself, you'll understand the MIL symbology or military symbology, tactical symbology. You know, we spend a few months learning and studying this stuff and on various courses. You know, but this is how we depict military units in the military on maps, on tactical maps. So each each unit and its role and its strength are designated here. So I'll show you something else later you can actually use to work these out and work out what they resemble. I.e. artillery, motorised infantry, air defence. Alright. So anyone that thought Ukraine is is down in numbers and doesn't have much there. They still got a fairly formidable force left. Don't forget they're defending their country. They're not on the offensive. They don't have to attack. So again, Russia is putting itself in a pretty hard place. So that was that one. The deep state map we've now looked at. That one. What was I going to show you? I was going to show you something. Just bear with me a sec. The map I was going to use? No. Let me just bring this one up quickly. Okay. All right. This is another one that I was going to show you, but this is not. It's not always updated accurately, but this just shows general overall dispositions of the forces as they move. So what you can do is you can try and work out what Putin is bringing in from where, or where Russia's bringing things in from. So things like this with the four X's, this represents a full army. So this is his 41st Army headquarters for the 41st Army, and these are all the items, all those subunits under that command. Right, so this is just, again, when we're talking about multiple armies, it just boggles my mind, because again, I was in such a small force that these things are just way beyond me. The numbers, there's just massive numbers. But like I said, a lot of it is conscripts, a lot of it is bad equipment, and it's not all serviceable all the time. But anyway, you can see, so he's got a tank division in there. He's got 2 mechanised brigades, so they're the brigades that move around on the tracked vehicles or the wheeled vehicles. Special Forces Company, an artillery brigade, a missile brigade, a flamethrower battalion. Alright, okay. And what you can then see is that from that army, he's then taken these assets and moved these assets around. So they go where they think they're needed at any given time. And that's the interesting thing that you can see on this map. You can start to see where he's taking stuff from and where it's going. And I'll tell you what, as this has progressed since February, the concentration of units and where they're being placed all around here, including right up near Latvia, is pretty amazing. You can see a lot of shifting of gear going on into Belarus. But yeah, and this is the detachment I was talking about that is permanently stationed in Transnistria. So there we go, about 1,500 troops. So yeah, what you can do is work out exactly where he's taking forces from, where he's putting them to. So these guys are on the move at the moment. They weren't there the other day. So who's this? The 237th Tank Regiment. 90 odd tanks, 40 infantry vehicles, fighting vehicles, 18 howitzers, mortars, three tank battalions. Wow, okay. So they're on the move at the moment towards Kharkiv. So again, because he started the offensive on Kharkiv again, and he's also sending this 752nd Mechanised Regiment, another 30 tanks, another 140 APCs. So they're all on the move towards Kharkiv at the moment. Okay, so what you want to do, if you ever want to, if you go to some of those other maps and they have the mil symbols or military symbology, like I said, and you don't know what's what and you're really curious to find out, I mean, you can hover over these, it'll tell you 4th Mechanised Brigade, etc. But visually, if you want to learn them, you can just show or hide legend here and it'll bring up the legend. So anything like this is a mechanised unit. and then the strength will be depicted by the symbol over the top. So whether it's a regiment, whether it's a full army, whether it's a company. But again, he's telling you exactly what's what. So, you know, that's a tank. And then once you put the cross through the tank symbol, it becomes mechanised. So, special forces in green. What else we got? Artillery. There you go. So, artillery yellow with a black dot in the middle. And then when you put the track around it, that's meant to symbolise like a tracked vehicle now. So that becomes self-propelled artillery. So the ones that drive themselves. Multiple rocket launcher. Anti-tank unit. And then we've got, yeah, air bases, naval assets. So his S400 system units. So where's he got a couple of those S400s? They'll be around air bases and around the coast. There we go, there's one here. S350s, anti-aircraft missile regiment. S400, S300. Yeah, so they're normally around protecting air bases, vital assets, naval bases. Alright, so that's that map, guys. Alright, the last one, last couple, I'll talk through these quickly because, wow, this is, you're either going to be really, really bored of me and watch this or not watch it, I should say, or put up with me and go, wow, that's a little bit interesting, but I don't know. It's gone on a bit longer than I thought, but anyway. All right, so this is total Russian losses as of the 14th to the 7th, so as of yesterday. And like it says, they're very transparent. They say it's an approximate estimate, but again, this is about putting the numbers out there so the Russian people can see it and they can maybe get angry with their own government, and mums and that can say, well, why the hell did my son go over there and die? You know, why did we invade a country that's full of our own relatives anyway? You know, there's people there that have relatives on both sides of the border there. You know, they're the same people, you know, a lot of them, and they're all Slavic people. It's just crazy, and you know, to get them to get a bit angry and start questioning the government in Russia is what needs to happen. You know, this people power really needs to start rising up and just saying, you know, if the police are going to come in and arrest us and belt us, well, tough, we're going to start pushing back. You know, like they did in Ukraine at the Maidan, and like they did in Belarus last year, where they nearly got rid of Lukashenko. He was within a whisker of being toppled. You know, if they'd kept that pressure up for another week or so, I think he would have been gone. All right, so 152,480 personnel were put in, and these are very good estimates. I mean, they, like I said, they capture everything in pictures, they record all the data, they take photos of the bodies and the ID cards and everything. So, you know, the estimates are pretty spot on. So killed 38,000 dead, 113,000 wounded now. So we're looking at, like I said, he put 152 in, and we're now looking at 147, nearly 150,000 incapacitated or out of action. All right, 190,000 intended for invasion, 80.3% he got, and that's 17% of the 900,000 Russian armed forces. So anyone that's watching this, there's a Russian troll or someone that's going to immediately say, oh, but they got another 1 million people and then they've got 1 million in reserve. Sorry guys, it doesn't work that way, and that's not the way armies work and militaries work, okay? And when we say army, I'm ex-army, so I always use army in the army sense. That's one function of a military. We have Army, Air Force and Navy, you know, essentially. So that's what an armed forces is made up. So his armed forces is 900,000 active at any given time across the 3 services. All right. So who does the bulk of the fighting? Well, the army does the bulk of the fighting. So, but out of that 900,000, he has 280,000 that are army. All right, so 700, so 620,000 then are left for the Air Force and the Navy. Take those numbers out, and then all the rest after that, like I said, are all the logistics and support. And they're not fighting troops; they're just, they're target practice, because they're not there to fight; they're to supply and support. So he's now lost 17% of that total. That's huge. That's massive, and he's only moved 150 kilometres in 5 months. Just shows that the big Russian juggernaut army is pretty much crap. Yeah, can't support itself logistically. Bad comms, a variety of equipment that's either serviceable or breaks down. A total mix in the calibre of the troops. We've seen the special units in there. Who've also been decimated. I think it was the 331st, I mentioned somewhere else, the 331st Airborne Division. I forgot the name, out of Komsomol, I think it is, Komsomol. That's one of their premier units. It's always at the front of the Red Square March. They were decimated. They couldn't march this year because there were none of them left. So we saw that mix of really highly skilled down to the conscripts who are just bloody hillbilly thugs that they brought in from villages that sit around and get pissed all day, and now they've got a weapon and a rifle, and these are the ones that have been raping like pigs and pillaging, and so we've got all that mixed in together. We've seen their tactics. Their tactics are absolute garbage. I'm a trained soldier, so when we're trained, if you go into contact and you have a contact, you have what you call actions on. So you know what to do. If you're contacted from the left or the right or above or behind, everybody knows their drills. They know how to react. They know where to put the fire down. We know where we're going to bound forward or pull back. We know what we need to call in for support. If we need to break the contact, which means bugging out of there, we know where to bug out to and how to do it. And we'll have several points where we bug out to. So if one is compromised, we have another one to go to. So we've got all that stuff done. These guys, they just move ahead, particularly their armour and their convoys, they just move ahead in a straight line. One gets hit, the rest keep continuing, or they either stop and just sit there waiting confused what to do, or they just break and go everywhere. No one returns any fire, no one puts down suppressing fire or turns into the enemy and lays down fire. They just, So anyway. So again, all you trolls out there that think they've achieved something, they've achieved bugger all, and they've absolutely been smashed. Alright, let's have a look at this breakdown. So we know the personnel, out of that 152, 150k gone. 150,000 gone. That's why he's trying to plug 80,000 at the moment for this new offensive. He's trying to recruit them all over the billboards in Russia in the last few days. Social media, websites, everything have sprung up these ads. Please come and recruit now. We'll pay you this much. You'll be offered this and that. So, they're urgently trying to recruit numbers. Okay, armoured combat vehicles. 3,852. So 28% of his total armoured combat vehicles have been destroyed. So he wanted 2,900 for the invasion. That was 100%. He got that. He put in 3,852. And they're now gone. 1,667 tanks. 840 artillery pieces. Wow. Aircraft. This is a massive one. I didn't expect them to down this many aircraft, but 219 aircraft and 188 helicopters. Ships and boats, 15. So, it's only a tiny number of ships and boats. They've got 519 of them in the combined armed forces, so he's lost 3%. Few of them, a couple of them are just tugs and things, but some of them are transport and logistics boats that were bringing in supplies of ammunition. And it might not look like much, but you know, they've taken them down, and then of course the Moskva went down. But to lose 188 helicopters, or 20%, and those are some of his frontline, you know, the KA-52s and that have gone down, and he's even out of the 219 aircraft. So, and like they're saying, there's a 1379 in the armed forces combat aircraft, and out of that, I think again they were saying at any given time they can probably field about 50%, 60% as serviceable. So you know, you're now looking at, you halve that, take that down to 600, and he's lost 200. So he's lost a third of his combat aircraft. So again, look, I don't see how a lot of people consider that he's had much of a victory at all. He's been hammered essentially. He's been decimated in a lot of areas, and it's going to take him a long, long time if they survive this. Because I tell you what, if I was NATO at the moment, knowing how crippled this is, and how ineffective a lot of his stuff that he's been talking up, like his new technology, his air defence systems and that, I mean, some of them pretty good, but a lot of it's been tested now and it's come up short. And if I were NATO now, I would be saying, poor old Ukraine, we've given them weapons and everything, but they've been acting as like a buffer for the rest of Europe. Let's get in and bloody help them and give Russia an ultimatum now. You guys have got a week to pack up and move back to the February 24 lines. Leave Donetsk and Luhansk, you know, they can be talked about in the future. Go back to the drawing board on those two, but Russia, get the hell out within a week, otherwise NATO's coming in and any Russian forces left in those areas are going to be fair game. Or the other option is to go really hard and say, you know, you've got a month to pull out everything, including from Crimea, or anything again that's left will be fair game. But I think they have to do that now. I mean, he's going to use his nuclear threats again, which he does all the time. He did in 2014. But someone's got to call his bluff now and say, mate, if you're that stupid that you're going to use nuclear weapons, then we're going to use ours, and you'll also be turned to dust, and nobody wins out of this. So if he's willing to risk his country and his people that he says he's so proudly supporting, that's why he's in Ukraine in the first place, is to rescue Russian people, and yet he's willing to risk them in a nuclear exchange, then it just shows what a shit of a person he is. He's a shit of a person anyway, but alright. Okay, last two quickly, guys. Radar Live. I use this just to look at the shipping activity and see if I can pick up any military movement through the Black Sea. And you occasionally pick the odd one up, but not a hell of a lot, because they do, when they're in the Black Sea, they don't squawk, so they don't send out their transponder code like planes do, or the shipping code that they send out. But when they come through the crossings, like the Dardanelles and things, they have to turn that on so they can be identified as friend or foe. So you'll briefly maybe pick them up through these passages through here or through here if they're military. Like at the moment I can't see, doesn't appear to be any military there, just hovering over them, they're all commercial. So yeah, I keep an eye on that, and I also keep an eye again on what's happening obviously up around here. So what's going into, so Constanța at the moment, for example, Constanța here in Romania, that's now a massive military presence for NATO. The US has put millions of dollars in their last few years building it up into a big capable base. So that's got a lot of presence in there at the moment, very, very busy. And where else are we? Just wanted to show you. It's probably not going to come up here because it's too small. Might do. There's Mikhail Gorgoniescu. Here we go. Alright, so this airport here, Gogolnicianu, Mihail Gogolnicianu, that's the main staging point in Romania at the moment. One of the main staging points for all the supplies coming in from NATO for the new battle group that's been formed here on this flank. So there's a lot of foreign military personnel stationed there. I went down there, probably a month ago. Not too much opportunity to take pictures. Can get on there. You can drive right into the terminal and you can see the guys coming in and out, different forces and that. But a lot of the areas where they are, they've got screens up, so you can't see behind the fences, and understandable. So that's not that far from Constanza. And then around the base, they've got a lot of land there where they've set up, camps, permanent camps. Again, America's poured a lot of money in there. But Constanza is a massive port area. It's huge. It's one of the biggest in Europe. But again, I just hover over here and have a quick look and see if I can pick up any military traffic. Just going on the names. These are all ships that are obviously waiting offshore to be processed, like oil, etc. So you can normally click on them and it'll bring up a picture of the vessel, where it's going. So I would say these are all, can't really see anything military at the moment. This guy's on the move. Where's he going? Izmail. Okay. So he's actually going to the port of Izmail in Ukraine, which is just up that tributary, that area I was telling you about that I was starting to bomb. Romanian fishing vessel. Okay. What have we got here? GSP King, what's that? I'm always curious at the stuff that's still operating around Ukraine, because obviously there's a lot of stuff going in and out, but wow, so these are all ships again going to Tulcha and up the river to unload up here, but you can see the amount of traffic here, and that's that crossing where I said the ferry boats used to take human cargo across is now closed. You can see the amount of traffic around here now, so again it maybe was explaining, like I said, why Russians are starting to bomb on this side of the border, trying to target those transport routes. Could be totally wrong. And I obviously don't want to give anything away that might not need to be given away, but it's just putting two and two together and doing a little bit of analysis and looking at stuff. And there we have our famous little island, Snake Island. Beautiful little bit of dirt where they told the Russian warship, go fuck yourself. That's been the scene of give and take, and so it's now back in the control of Ukraine. And okay, so what have we got here? Actually up in Ukraine. Okay, again these are all bulk carriers. Nothing's really changed. And then Sevastopol down here, you can't even, obviously around Sevastopol there'll be a lot of Russian naval activity, but you just can't pick it up because they're not sending any codes out. Crane ship, okay. Hero Ivan Sivko, okay, a tugboat. Sailing vessel. Okay. Alright, so that's another little bit of the picture. And the last one is flight radar. There's a lot of you that will obviously know flight radar and are maybe subscribed. So the reason I use flight radar is I like to see what's up in the air at the moment, providing coverage for the eastern flank, which goes from Romania right up to Estonia, Finland. I like to see what's in the air at the moment, and also what's operating out in the Black Sea. So let me just have a look at this. Here we go. Perfect example for you. So the first example I click on, and I just know that by call sign. So it's Vivi11. It's just not a normal commercial call sign. So my eyes went straight to that, and I thought, let's have a look at that. So if we zoom in, so we can see here it's a Northrop Northrop Grumman Global Hawk. So for those that don't know, the Global Hawk is an unmanned aerial vehicle. So it's just like a huge drone. And this is probably based out of Cyprus or Greece somewhere. Where did it come from? Syracuse, yeah. So that's where its home base is. So it flies up here. And wow, I tell you what, it's really pushed in. It's pushed in. That's great to see. It's pushed in. Probably it could probably go a little bit further, just sticking around its boundaries. Because obviously there's Russian airspace. Russian airspace will be sort of around here, even though the West doesn't recognise it. They're not going to go in there at the moment. So anyway, what the Global Hawk will do, it will sit there and it will loiter, meaning just sit and collect, watching, listening, recording. So it's got this will be one of the Global Hawks that's fully kitted out for what they call SIGINT, or signals intelligence. So it'll have all the sensors and the platforms on it to just be listening. So it'll just be recording anything it can hear and pick up on different frequencies, or maybe targeted frequencies, and recording images. And it sits there at a height. You can see it's at 54,000 feet. It's not moving that quick, 396 k's, doesn't really need to, because it's just going to sit there, and it can sit there for close to 30 hours if it needs to, without coming home. That's the beauty of it. You just put it up and set it, and away it goes. So it's actually the #1 tracked vehicle in the world at the moment on flight radar. Alright, okay, and I can show you something else, so let's have a look, see if we can pick anything else visually over Romania that might indicate a presence. So dead giveaway there is NATO 11, so the call sign NATO 11. Okay, so it's going to be one of two things. Either going to be an aerial tanker like a KC-135 aerial tanker, which will be up there to refuel other air assets that need refueling, that are patrolling, like fighter planes, which we're not going to see here because they're not squawking, so they're not going to advertise where they are, which is fine. So it's up there to refuel them, or it's up there to refuel other intelligence collection platforms that are up in the air. Or it might be one itself. I think it's a KC-135 tanker, but I could be wrong. It could be what they call a rivet joint, a Poseidon. It could be a P8, or it could be a rivet joint, being a collection asset in its own right. It's flying from Constanza. It's heading, so it's this one here. Let's just click on it. Let's see what it is. Put us out of it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's a Boeing E-3A Sentry. So it is a collection platform, so it's not a refueler. So it's an E-3A Sentry. And where's it flying out of? Based in Turkey. Okay. Alright, so it's based in Turkey, and because it's an E-3A Sentry and it's heading that way, that means it's just going on duty now. So he's gonna fly up and start doing laps and listening again and collecting, and far more sophisticated in terms of the array of sensors and electronics and things on board. So he'll either come up here and just sit around this area and do laps around here, listening up into the Black Sea and supporting the old drone or the unmanned aerial vehicle, the Global Hawk. Or what he'll do is he'll do a few laps in here, and then he'll just work up and down the border area here. Okay, BART 20, I would say BART is going to be another NATO asset, so this probably is a refueler, this one. Let's have a look. There we go. Love my brilliance sometimes. Okay, so BART 20 is a KC-135 Stratotanker, so he's a refueler. He's probably just ducked down this way to see if anyone needs any fuel quickly, because he's probably going offline now. He's already, you can see he's been on station here doing a few laps. He's probably out of Poland. No, he's probably maybe out of the UK. Wow, it's taking a long detour. Germany, okay. Bitburg, yeah, I should have seen that. So it doesn't say how long he's been on station for. 24,000 feet, 785 k's, okay. Oh, there we go. So he's just done, like I said, exactly what we thought. He's come in here, he's done a bit of a U-turn. So he's either going to go back here, do more laps and head home, or he's heading home now. Oh yeah, he's probably, here we go. So this is why I find this interesting, guys. You can see this one here, Bart 25. He's probably coming on station now to relieve Bart 20, so they'll do a handover. Bart 20 will head home now, and Bart 25, he's been doing laps as well. Wow, they're busy today. So he's another tanker. So they've got two tankers up in the air, pretty much that have been there for the same time. Where's this guy come from? Same place, roughly. Okay, so it's a busy weekend. Wow. So we got the eyes and the ears in the sky with NATO 11 with the E3A Sentry. We've got the Global Hawk flying out over the Black Sea as close as you can get into Sevastopol. So he'll be just tracking all the ships, you know, all the naval assets that Russia's got in there. A lot of commercial traffic down here still. Then we got one tanker on duty, another tanker on duty. See if we can pick up anything else. Someone heading into Moldova, which is a little rare, but they're still flying flights into Chisinau, so anything else over Romania at the moment in amongst all these call signs. Duke, there we go, Duke 61. So is a US Army little beechcraft. So I got my suspicions he's a collection asset as well. Some type of specialised small plane. See if we can get a picture of him. Recent flights, where's he been? Any pictures of this guy? So he's okay. Yeah, that's not the plane. That's a different type of plane. No. See, some of this might be classified, so which is fair enough again. But yeah, I just recognise Duke in amongst all that jumble, so I know Duke's has got something to do with intelligence collection, I'm assuming. And then normally, if you come up around Poland, you'll find a fair bit in Poland and Czech as well, because obviously that's where a lot of the equipment is coming in. So not so much Czech, but particularly around Poland. Poland, you find. So this is where I was a couple of weeks ago down here, Przemyśl. I've learned how to say that now. It's really complicated. I've forgotten totally, but it's like Przemyśl or something. It's really, apologies to anyone out there for butchering it. But yeah, I was down here at the border crossing there, so you'll see a lot of activity around here. There's a lot of the freighter planes, the Antonovs flying in and out as well around Tarnów and this town here, dropping supplies off. Can't really see any NATO assets up there at the moment, but I'm sure they're there. Here we go. What's this guy? No. Royal Air Force. Yeah, there we go. Thought I'd picked one out. Alright, so this is another KC-2 Voyager. So, a tanker. From Bryce Norton, so he's been sitting out on station doing laps as well. So they're obviously, like I said, there'll be fighter planes up flying caps, combat air patrols, but they're not going to show up. The only time the fighters do show up is when they want their presence to be known. So they want to pop up everywhere for, you know, they might not be on a particular frequency for the Russians or someone else, but they'll pick up on something that's domestic or commercial, so they'll squawk on where they can so that they become visible, and that way their presence is known. So you will pick them up occasionally, particularly over the UK, because obviously there's a massive Russian presence always going through the Straits and through the Channel and up the top end. So you will see quite a few time to time. Let's just have a look, see if we can pick up one fighter at least. Here we go. There we go, Apollo 11. Wow, what a name. There we go, there's an FGR-4 Eurofighter Typhoon cruising along. Wolf 0021, another Typhoon. Okay, so they're making their presence known for a reason. Here's another one, Ninja 11, BAE Hawk 128. So you could be flying training flight for new recruits and things. And just because there's a lot of domestic traffic around there, that's why these guys are squawking. They could be training flights as well, but that's why they're making themselves known. But yeah, you won't normally see anyone else. Alright guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm going to finish this recording and go in and edit some stuff. You know, put a hello and a goodbye on the front and the back and a little thumbnail, and put this out and see if anyone actually watches it. Hopefully you got something out of that. But like I said, I like to keep an eye on things. I like to know tactically exactly what's going on at the moment, given that you know, I live here in Bucharest and Ukraine is just here, Moldova is just here, so you know, it's very tangible for us, and we've got a lot of Ukrainian refugees in Romania, so you see them every day. They're all over the place. Yeah, so, and like I said, I've been to the borders several times to help, those sort of things. I'm still planning to drive back into Ukraine. I don't know when. Sore back at the moment. I want to get over my back. I was meant to have driven into Moldova. What's today? Friday. I was meant to have been in Moldova on Wednesday. I think, I don't know if I said, but what I was going to do is drive from Bucharest here to Galatz and drive just under the Russian-controlled Transnistrian territory, which ends around just south of Tiraspol here. I was going to drive here down this dog leg, right down into this block here, right where all that shelling is all the moment. All that shelling that I showed you that's taking place around here. I was going to be staying in a little guest house just here, which is only 35 k's from Odessa. So you'll be able to hear a lot of the action from here. And now that the shell's coming into this area, it's wow, it's weird. But I was meant to be there on Wednesday, but because of my back, but I've rebooked for next week. I know it's a bit early yet, a bit ambitious, but we'll see. So that's the plan. And then the other plan after that is I've got to drive to Kiev at some stage. I want to go in there and just do a bit more aid work, buy a few more things, and then from Kiev, I'll go out to all the areas around here like Bucha and Hostomel and Irpin and have a look around and do what I can. But I really want to get out to Kharkiv, and I know it's a dangerous area at the moment. The train is still running between Kiev and Kharkiv, so I can catch the train. It's all at night, it's all blacked out. But yeah, I want to get into Kharkiv and then just just so that I've been there and I've talked to people and I can see what's going on. I can see the the frontline devastation. We've seen it around those areas when they tried to get into Kiev. They destroyed those towns, but that's nothing compared to the destruction that's going on to the east at the moment. So guys, that's it. Little tools for you to use. Probably an hour-long video now, but I'm just going to call it like tools to track Ukrainian war or something, or useful tools to assess the war in Ukraine, something like that. Alright guys, stay safe. Thanks for watching if you did, and listening, and we're putting out a lot of content in the next few months. Going to go on a couple of road trips with a couple of mates, with Ed, and head into Germany, do some stuff in Germany, and then I'm going to come out and head down and do the Balkans. So, excuse the yawn, but yeah, we've got a lot coming. Right guys, cheers, stay safe, and be in touch.